Hi everybody, welcome to week 9. So I am looking forward to reading your lesson plans from last week. Creating lesson plans really makes you kind of nail down exactly what you're going to do during your teaching, and it can also really help you to see any holes in your teaching. And then I'll also be reviewing your NEPD forms. Thanks for some really great discussion last week about teaching strategies. You guys brought up some really creative things that seemed very appropriate for your setting, so I can't wait to see how they turn out. All right, so this week we are focused on feedback and evaluation. So let's start with our discussion question. What is some feedback that you would like to receive from your students to improve your teaching and presentation methods? So feedback from students can come in different ways. Maybe someone will just approach you directly. You might have formal feedback forms like the end of course evaluation forms that you do here at GCU. You might see how a class responds to some teaching, see how class does or your participants do on an assignment based on the teaching. So there's a lot of ways to get that feedback. And sometimes the feedback that we get is quite objective and helpful. It really helps you improve what you're doing. And sometimes it's just a way for people to vent. So we kind of have to take both. When I read feedback, I try to look at trends in my scores and comments to try to get that kind of middle ground, because sometimes the super highs and the super lows aren't all that representative of the entire class. So I guess I look more for trends, if at all possible. At one college where I taught, new faculty were told to sit back, start working on a glass of wine, and then read their feedback reports. So depending on your students, you can get some helpful and not so helpful feedback. So what information would be most helpful to you as the instructor? Answering that question can help you to structure the feedback that you're asking for from your students, which leads us into the assignment for this week. Okay, so it's about evaluating your students' learning and also about obtaining their feedback. Okay, excuse me. So on the lesson plan that last week, you needed to start looking at evaluation strategies, and now we're really going to dig deeper into this area. So this week's assignment is a narrative paper. You have 900 to 1,200 words, and for this paper, you won't be attaching any documents, any quizzes or anything like that. You'll just be providing descriptions of what you're going to do. So let's take a quick look at each area. So the first area is about formative assessment that you are planning on using. Maybe that will be questioning or observing or using another strategy. Be very descriptive about what you are doing and include examples. And then you'll tell me how the information that you gain from this will help you to guide or change the rest of that teaching section. There's a session that you're teaching. So if you're collecting any data or information from formative assessment, you want it to be useful and you want it to help you fine-tune the rest of your instruction. That's kind of the whole point of formative assessment, right? Okay. The next two items deal with summative assessment. So if you use the ABCD format for your objectives on the lesson plan, then this part will be pretty easy. So again, provide me with details, provide me with examples. So don't just tell me you're going to do like a quiz or a skills pass-off. Provide me with a couple questions or the key points that you'll be looking for from participants to demonstrate. So give me a few specific details, okay? And then finally, you're going to discuss getting feedback from your students. So you need to do this in a way where you will have actual, like recorded information of some sort. So most of you are familiar with filling out evaluation forms like after a class or a seminar or a webinar or something like that. The questions that you put on this can actually come from our DQ this week. What kind of information do you want to get from your students for feedback? Okay. And then the last part of this week's paper is how you will plan on using that feedback once you get it to further develop your teaching effectiveness. Okay, so again, you won't be turning in any actual, like the forms that you're going to use while you're teaching. You're just turning in your narrative paper this week. So I want to also look ahead at some assignments because they relate to what we're doing this week. In week 13, you will write a reflection paper about how your teaching went. And you're going to use information from your formative assessments and the instructor evaluations to write that short paper. So information will come into that one. Then in week 14, you're going to be analyzing the data from your summative assessments. So please keep that in mind as you develop those assessments and those feedback strategies. So you will actually using the information that you gained for some future assignments coming up. Okay, then I also want to take a look kind of more ahead to week 15 also. So during that week, you'll be submitting a portfolio, a professional portfolio. And at that time, you're going to include then your finalized lesson plan, which will have the final version of your actual lesson plan and then the fleshed out evaluation strategies. You'll also include your actual summative assessment, what you used for that will be part of it. You'll include a final reflection about your overall teaching experience. So that part is where you will include actual, like a form, a quiz, a checkoff sheet, a list of questions asked. So that's where you'll be showing me that piece towards the end. Also, I wanted to let you know that you're going to be asked to list out 3 references and their contact information. So one from a work setting, one from the school or education setting, that's often your preceptor, and one personal one. And then those will just be listed out with their contact information. But then you'll also be submitting 2 reference letters. Now those reference letters can come from somebody on the list, but they don't have to. They can come from other people. But they should be professional reference letters as if you were applying for a job. Okay, those type of reference letters. So you will need 2 of them. And I know when we ask people, sometimes it takes a while to get them back. So I wanted to give you a heads up so you can start kind of thinking about that. Some of my students ask their preceptors for a reference letter when they're getting closer to the end of their experience. So just kind of some thoughts about that. All right, I think that's everything for this week. And happy Valentine's Day on Friday. And I'm looking forward to another great week together. I'll see you in the main forum.